We will go ahead and start our Lewis Central Board of Directors meeting. We'll call to order. Can we get attendance, please?
Ms. Atkins?
Here.
Mrs. McDaniel? Mrs. Peterson? Mrs. Shuffle?
Here.
Mr. Sorensen?
Here.
Mr. Sturm?
Here.
Mr. Wright?
Here. Approval of the March 17th, 2025 agenda. Can I please get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second. Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Okay, at this time, I would like to open the public hearing per Iowa Code 26.12 for a public improvement project for the high school roof.
Yep, so we, basically, the drawings, what am I? Click out of it. One second. So the high school roof, we have drawings were prepared by Rick Emmonsweiler. And he is estimating, we had a previous hearing on this. We just had an issue with the drawings that we had to revamp, and when you revamp the drawings, then you have to revamp the hearing. So, we had, let me get down to the right area. Okay, so high school roof, estimated price right now, by Rick Emmonsweiler is $800,000. And that would take care of kind of all the second story, sections on the high school area. So kind of two phases. First phase was last year, this is second phase. So let's take care of the rest of our roofs.
Okay. Do we have any public comment regarding the high school roof? Okay, if not, we'll adjourn that portion and then move to the public hearing regarding the high school parking lot.
So we currently have a design and RFP out for the high school parking lot. The design was completed by Lamper and Nearson. Includes a parking lot lights, and adjoining pavement. It does not include the new lane, as we're still working that piece through with the city. We're hoping to come to kind of a conclusion on that, so we can hopefully get people in and out of our parking lot a little bit easier and help alleviate some of that traffic flow off of Harry Langdon. Bids for the parking lot are due on April 4th and will be available to review and approve on April 7th for you guys. The budget for the budget, Lamper Nearson's estimate right now for the high school parking lot, it's $2,043,400 is their estimate.
Now, does that include the small lot?
That is not.
That does not.
No, so any additional lot or lane, this would not include. This is strictly pavement for pavement replacement of what we currently have, which would start at the athletic building at the middle school, be the road that runs clear around the back of the football complex or the athletic complex, and then not the new pavement from when they just put it in for like the new kind of parking lot that's the westernmost parking lot, not that one because that's new when they put the auditorium in, but
Right.
then the rest of it clear out to the front. We would not do much with the portion of the parking lot that's towards the high school. So that's all relatively new. It's more or less, the drive and then the main parking lot area. So the idea is they would place the middle section first, the big section, and then they would do the front section out by the road, and then they would do that back lane. So that way somebody always has access to the school. I said that all right, did I, Brett?
I was double checking numbers, but yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna phase it to where, yeah, there's always access from either the north or the south, depending on which we're working on. And, the school will always be accessible. So you guys have to work with us as we're.
So when would the little parking lot come into, what phase would that be?
That would be the lane. So we would do the lane, because it depends. If they want the lane to go south of the current, where the current opening is now, like they wanted it, if the city says, no, we're not gonna allow you to extend the current lane that we have now that goes in and out, they want us to put a new lane in now, that'll be congruent at that time with where we put the new lane. So if they,
We have two options we're looking at. One is widening the existing north entrance to create a double turn lane out of the lot heading north and one lane heading south. The other option is the original of an actual separate entrance where the tennis courts currently are. So we're debating between the two of them and using those two as negotiating tools with the city.
Well, as far as the lane is concerned, I mean, that helps get people in and out. But I guess I would look for the actual parking lot.
If we go with the north widening, we will add a small parking lot where the tennis courts are. If they don't allow that, and we go with the drive-through road through the tennis courts to the highway, we would try to put some parking out for that, but it won't be as much. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And part of it's just waiting to see what the city wants to do with Harry Langdon.
Yeah.
Have they given any sort of time frame?
no, their traffic study's done, so we're currently trying to set up a meeting with them. I know Potawatomi County has a lot of interest too in fixing Harry Langdon right now, and that, especially that intersection at 92. So there's a lot of different individuals who have a lot of interest in changing up how that works right now. We just gotta get everybody to the table and start deciding what's gonna happen, so.
I'm available tomorrow.
Were there any additional public comments regarding the high school parking lot?
When will the specs be out for what is gonna be coming back?
They're currently, everything is posted on the AV technical supplies plan.
As of today it was?
It actually went up, I think, Friday.
And then when we say they were due, April 4th?
Yes.
Can I see a copy of the specs?
I sent them all to you. It's all
All
here.
right, sorry.
No, you're good. There's also links on our website. So if you go to our website on the main page, if you scroll down, there's a little,
Yeah, there's nothing on there.
on the website? There, yeah, I was gonna say.
Some of the news and updates section, there's a bid notice
Yeah.
piece.
Lisa, can you, Dr. Hartman, can you switch over to Lewis Central? Scroll down. Bid notice,
Yeah.
go to high school parking lot.
All the specs and bid forms are all in this file.
Okay.
Okay, that's probably good. Majority of us don't know what we're looking at anyway, so.
I'll research it.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Were there any additional public comments regarding the parking lot? Okay, if not, we'll adjourn that portion and then move into the high school tennis courts.
Let me get my document back up there, I switched them. Okay. High school tennis courts, so regardless of the plan we pick for the high school, widening the lane or moving the lane, it'll run through a portion of our current tennis courts, so those are decrepit anyway, so we need to replace them. So the idea is if we're gonna go where the tennis courts are now, we need to move the tennis courts. This is the time, since they're all kind of junk anyway, we'll move them. So we're gonna move them to the west side of the high school on the area of grass that's closest to 92. And budget for so when we looked at it, we kind of lumped the tennis courts in with the drainage, so we know we have to take care of a lot of drainage on our property, high school and middle school. and as well as our operations building. Everything drains towards the old railroad tracks, and we need to get that water to then run south. Right now, it just kind of pools or doesn't even collect back in there. So, so as part of the tennis courts, we have permission from the city, it's in your consent agenda, to be able to clear out from the northernmost section by the tennis courts all the way down until you get down a little parking lot for the Wabash Trail. So kind of that whole section will get cleared out. Be huge for us for water mitigation, but that's lumped into the tennis courts here. Lamper Nearson estimate for, and it says parking lot, it's supposed to be tennis courts. For the tennis courts and all of that drainage work is $1,155,850. So $1,155,850. Our total budget for the parking lot, tennis court, and the drive lane, which is yet to be announced, was $4.2 million. This puts us at roughly, 3.2 million so far. So almost $1 million left for the whatever additional parking lot and lane we would need. So well within our budget so far.
Are there any public comments regarding the tennis courts? Okay, hearing none, we will move into the Titan Hill parking lot replacement and additional queuing lane.
So this will add, so right now we have 2 lanes that go up. One is supposed to be for parents, one's supposed to be for buses. The problem is we get parents that, if they're new to picking up, or if they get a grandparent or somebody that picks up, they'll get in the bus lane, really backs everything up. And so, and the other thing, we don't have enough to get people off of Harry Langdon, so we're gonna do an extra lane. So we'll have 2 lanes for parents, and then 1 lane that's an extra wide lane for buses and ERC, or staff members only, to be able to go that way. And then so there'll be 2 lines of parent cars that'll go all the way up and around. That'll hopefully make for a smoother process for picking up and dropping off. Budget we had for this is about $1.5 million. Lamper Nearson, who did the design and estimates for us right now, is estimating that at just shy of $700,000, about $697,400. So, well under budget. So that's always a good thing. Now we just have to see where the bids come in. So this is also on that website. So any of the Titan Hill stuff is also in the posting rooms and on the website as well.
And for clarity, we're replacing the parking lot portion that is mainly where the teachers park. That's the worst of it. The one to the south here is in good shape, it's staying. The main drive lane along the building is staying, so it's mainly the parking lot to the west where all the teachers park. And then probably 80% of the sidewalks up to the building are also being replaced with this, because we pretty much bad sidewalks.
So if people out there can't hear, because Brett's off to the side, he's saying that it'll be the worst area of the parking lot. We're not replacing pavement, that's already good. Additional lane, and then about 80% of the sidewalks that run around the front of Titan Hill. So a lot of tripping hazards, potential tripping hazards around there.
Do we have any additional public comment regarding the Titan Hill parking lot replacement? Okay. Then we will move from that onto the middle school roof.
Okay. So again, we already had a meeting or a public hearing on the middle school roof, but we had to make a design change, so it's back up there. So Rick Emsweiler did our design again on this. Estimated price, bids were due last Friday. They were open last Friday. We just have to have a board hearing again, just to make sure that everybody's aware that the board will be voting on this project tonight. Estimated price is $200,000. We just need to have the board approve the specs, and then the next board of action will be to approve the bids. We did get bids in, so.
Any public comments regarding the middle school roof? Okay. Then at this point, we will adjourn the public hearing portion of our meeting, and we will move to commendations, good news.
All right, we have some guests today. Thank you for sitting through that long and boring hearing portion. So we have the middle school student council.
Girls want to start by introducing who you are, potentially.
Hi, my name is Jada Long, and I'm the president of Student Council.
Hi, my name is Olivia Zarowski, and I'm the vice president of Student Council.
Hi, my name is Bella Cloyd, and I'm the secretary of the Student Council.
Hi, my name is Ridley Hendricks, and I'm just a student council member.
Hi, my name is Olivia Stevens, and I'm just a student council member.
Not just.
I was going to say, there's no such thing as just a student council member.
I'm Miss Mendoza, Danielle. I'm lucky enough to work with these amazing kiddos, special ed teacher at the middle school, but also the student council sponsor. Great group of kids.
Today we're going to be talking about the Student Council's accomplishments and like what we plan on doing in the near future.
Yep. Whoever's going to talk needs to stand right up here. There you go.
Okay, so to kick off our student council fundraisers, we decided to do boograms during October. And basically what it was just a sucker, and it has like tissue paper around it, shaped like a ghost, obviously, for that holidays. And we raised a total of like $150, which is very nice, and it spread positivity around the Central Middle School. Yeah, it was just a dum-dum candy. That was about it.
And you could include a little note for a friend, so it was
Yeah.
attached also, so you could send it specifically to somebody that you wanted to give it to.
Okay, and then we also did a food drive donating to the Thriving Titans, and we raised 587 cans that delivered to Thriving Titans. And every year we do it, but due to weather, we didn't do as well as we wanted to, so we will be doing another one at the end of the year to help make up so that we have more food for the Thriving Titans.
Coincided with the cold weather week,
Oh,
unfortunately.
no.
It's kind of hard to remember.
Yeah, sounds like it's going to be potentially that again.
Yeah, hopefully not.
We also did conference tours where the student council members showed parents in need where the children's classrooms were. Instead of taking up more conference time to ask a teacher where a classroom is, or even worse, getting lost, students could ask one of the many student council members that were walking in the hallways waiting to help. This was very successful and made conferences go by quicker.
We also did door decorating contest. The students in each room got to design a Christmas door with paper and markers, and then at the end, janitors and faculty members got to walk around and judge who did the best door decorating.
Spirit Week was also one of our activities that we did for student council. We dressed up festively according to given spirit days. The week before winter break, the students got to dress up like to just holidays, spirit. Lori took a picture of each student that weared according to the calendar of the day. And then there was also movie days and dress up days or pajama days too. It was very fun.
And then these are just some pictures, like for the Christmas door decorating. That was a couple of students that were doing it, like the process of it. And then there was the winner. I can't see who it was.
Mrs. Woolers.
Mrs. Woolers. And then for the food drive, there was a thank you card from the Thriving Titans. And they were just thanking us for donating and helping out the families that needed it. So, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Spring teacher appreciation fundraiser was to show our love to each teacher at Lewis Central. When we showed teachers we cared about them and giving them like positive feedback during when they're working around the clock, the second trimester was probably a really hard time for them. Just showing that we cared about them and to stay positive really helped probably. And the teachers, we give them a gift, or their teachers.
It's okay, to remember they're doing the paper flower and they'll write the message on it.
Oh yeah, paper flower, and you'd write the message on it. And just to show that, I mean, we appreciate them a lot. The paper flowers can symbolize like just how we care about them.
Spring Spirit Week. Dress up to celebrate weather warming up. At the beginning of spring break, everyone gets very excited and rambunctious for the warm weather that is to come. So why not get some of the energy out by having some fun dress-up days where you can wear a cute pair of sunglasses and shorts. This will also act as a reward for good behavior from the ISAF testing. Food drive. End of the year stock up. In order to make sure kids that don't have the right resources to still get fed. Oh, I already did this one. Okay, so how we'll do it at the end, because due to weather we didn't get as much food as we wanted for the kids that needed it. So we'll do it at the end of the year sometime soon again.
Thank you, Eggs. The members of Student Council will fill an Easter egg for each and every teacher in the building in order to show our appreciation how hard they work.
Penny ores. For competing for pennies, classes will have a jar to fill with pennies. They will compete to get the most pennies, and our earnings will go out to help beat cancer. And then for spring conferences, showing parents around the school. This is just like the last time we were showing parents around, but this time it'll be there in the third trimester.
So what we're wanting to plan next is a school dance for the middle school. So Student Council has come up with the idea that we would like to plan a dance for the middle school. This is because it would benefit the entire school by increasing our amount of school spirit, letting everyone get some energy out, which will hopefully decrease the amount of referrals given out. And even though we will need to fundraise a little bit for the dance to be set up, it'll be a huge fundraiser in itself if we have people buy tickets.
And to make sure that everything goes smoothly, we will have teachers and maybe a couple of parents volunteer to chaperone, run bathroom security, bring anything unnecessarily into the dance. Oh, I skipped. And be ready at the entrance to deny students who have big bags or are bringing anything unnecessary into the dance. We have also decided that we should not allow access into the dance for kids that have any major referrals this year. Student Council can speak for the middle school, and we are willing to plan this event out and take the safety precautions in order to make it fun and safe environment for everyone.
And that's it. So that's what we're planning to do or wanting to do and what we've already done.
Good
I'm gonna
job.
say they showed a ton of incentive also for the dance. They put all of this together on their own. Their initiative for this group is amazing. They even said, Dr. Reynolds is gonna ask about this, so we need to make sure that we have this in place. So they've done a really good job coming up with all of the things that they would need in place, and this was all of them. So I want them to have full credit for coming up with everything that we needed. Great group of kids, I'm lucky to get to work with them.
Do you guys currently have a dance?
No, we're trying to get approval from Dr. Reynolds.
Oh. I'll tell you what, Dr. Hazing would donate towards the dance if that's a barrier.
He donates his time.
He won't donate time, but I will donate dollars. So make sure this dance happens.
I would second that.
There we go. Look at
I would
this.
third that.
You'll get this dance funded in no time.
See, they didn't know me, they didn't tell me they were putting this into the presentation tonight. But it is a really good group, and they do play good. We have good kids, and I will say that all day long. Lewis Central top to bottom has great kids, so when you have good kids advocating for other good kids, it's easy to say yes to this group. So I don't think I've said no to anything they've asked me this year, but they didn't ask for a dance until right now, so we'll see.
Do you girls
I
have-
think we can probably get it figured out.
Do you have a plan, like, are you going to charge an admission, and what will that money go for?
So obviously the dance would probably be a little bit expensive in itself because we would have to buy a DJ and decorations. So we would probably have to fundraise just a little bit to get it like started and stuff. But if we did charge admission, like about $5 per person, I mean, if you get 100 people to come, that's $500. So.
But Dr. Hayes
Is there
really good.
is there a goal for any extra? I mean, do you just put it in the student council pot for the future?
Yeah.
That,
I think it's a great idea.
I do too. It's pretty good. We'll try to make
Yeah.
it work.
I just want to say that I was at the middle school this week. Corporation and Company went over, and this isn't student council specifically related, but I was so impressed that they brought all 3 grades into the auditorium, and I was sitting way up in the crow's nest. By the way, I had never been up there before, but I sat and I was so impressed with your students and their focus on watching what was going on stage, and just the leadership within the entire room was phenomenal. So thank you for being outstanding leaders. It is noticed by other students because I've been there for that exact same performance before, and there was some chaos. So I think whatever it is that you're doing, it is being noticed not only by staff, but it's also being noticed by your peers. And so for that, I would like to congratulate you all for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I just handed out, so thanks so much to Student Council kiddos for coming. Appreciate you. They might have a few questions based on this information. You can ask any questions you want. We don't get an audience of the board very often, so I do always want to provide a little bit of information about the middle school. So I put this together quick just for some informative purposes. So this is our district mission, vision, and values on the front. And then as you open it up, it just kind of gives you a glance at what Lewis Central is, like how many kids we have. We currently have 715 kids. Outline staff, it shows just kind of the course offerings we have by exploratory, which have changed a lot in the last few years, and lots more opportunities for kids, which is fun. We've talked a lot this year as a district about having like a visual scoreboard, like how are we doing in meeting our goals. A couple things that I want to highlight, if you look all the way on the culture climate goals on the right, we have a goal that every student in our building receives a postcard from a staff member, and we actually met that goal in early March this year. So every student has received a postcard, some have received 2 or 3. For 715 kids, we're at 912 postcards on the year sent by staff. So that's an exciting one. Get pretty excited about that. The other one, if you go down to like when we survey kids, so I know that I've shared in my updates that we do survey students just about building expectations, because it's really important for students to do well. They need to know what's expected. So for example, 90% of students will understand how to be academically successful, and currently 98% of our students say that they do understand that. And then in terms of I understand behavior expectations, 99% of students say that they understand what that looks like. The other one that's really important to me is that every student who walks in the building feels like a staff member cares about them. So that top one, we're almost there. Our goal is 95%. I would say the goal in our heart is 100%. We want every kid to know that we care about them. We're currently at 93% in our spring data. So those are just really things that we hold really, really important to us. And then if you flip to this backside, the other thing, we know that activities at the middle school level feed activities at the high school level. So it's important that we have kids participating. So I just kind of included the numbers that we saw so far this year of how many kids we have out for our different activities. So that's really exciting. We have a lot of things to celebrate there. History Day, we had 30 students participate in the class, and 4 have now made it to the state level, which is exciting too. So good things happening there. If you look, our honor band and honor choir always have really good participation. Those are qualification. Everything else is opt-in. If you note, you might want to go to a middle school track meet, because we have 73 and 75 kids out for track, girls and boys. So we should be able to field some teams, which is awesome. We want to get kids as involved as they can be. At the middle school level, that translates to participation overall. So just a few things about us. Raise your hand if you're in something besides student council. Yeah, and I would say that's pretty much the norm. So we want students to be involved in as much as they can.
Are you all 8th graders?
I'm a 7th grader.
7th?
So 2-8.
2-8 then,
3-7.
okay.
Yep. Any other questions for any of our kids or me?
What's been your favorite activity so far this year?
To do with student council.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I really liked the boograms. I thought that was a pretty creative idea.
I'd say boograms too, just because it's that time of year and it's ready to be with Ghost.
Yeah, the boograms are fun, especially when you delivered them to see everyone get so excited that they got a boogram.
The boograms, because you guys see their smiles on their faces.
I like the food drive because I don't get as much help at home. They were like getting fed. Yeah, it's important.
Very cool. Where will the dance end up on your list?
His excitement for this dance
It's gonna be
is,
number one, Dr.
Is it gonna
Mason.
beat out
It's
the
gonna be best middle
Boo
school dance I've ever been at,
Wow.
pretty sure,
alright.
promise.
Very cool. You know, you could
You know-
couple the dance with your food drive. A lot of times it was.
Oh, entry
You know,
in, $1
Yeah.
and a can of food.
Yeah, $1 and
That
$1
usually
and a
works
can of
really well.
food.
and I'm just going to throw this out there that some years ago when I was an 8th grader at the middle school, we had an 8th grade dance that was semi-formal. So I'm just throwing that out there, that get dressed up and really make an evening of it. No pressure. No
I
pressure.
don't feel any.
Good.
All right, so if each of you had an opportunity to proceed with student council as you move forward with Lewis Central, how many of you would do it again?
I would definitely do it again. It was pretty fun.
And for these kids all being kind of their first year participating and definitely participating in the leadership roles that they have been, I've walked through their meetings before. Like, I don't think anybody needs to run the meetings sometimes. Like, they are just so organized, dedicated, and wanting to do good things. They came to me first 2 weeks probably and had a plethora of ideas. So I think that it's just an example of kids just wanting to do good things for one another and the school as a whole. And kudos to Ms. Mendoza, because she has assembled a great team and does a wonderful job supporting and advocating for them and organizing all the things that they want to do. So it's awesome kids, awesome sponsor. It's a great program.
Can you talk about how you guys were selected for student council?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So if I have an incoming 6th grader, 7th grader, 8th grader, how would they get involved? Or
So at the beginning of the year, we just kind of, everyone that was really interested in it, we all kind of talked to Miss Mendoza, and then we sent in teacher recommendations and forms to Dr. Reynolds and Miss Mendoza, and they filtered through everyone and saw who didn't have any referrals, who had the best recommendations, grades, attendance, all of that, and basically just the best got selected. And then it was a unanimous vote between the student council, the ones that got in, who was our president, vice president, etc. And yeah.
And then Ms. Mendoza has already started to think about which students will be on it next year, and if you're interested in it and you're on it right now, talk to her so that you get a head start.
And they came up with the idea. They're incredible. They want to hopefully come and talk to the students at Titan Hill, the 5th graders that are going to be incoming 6th graders, to kind of give them a presentation on what student council would be and explain to them the process for the incoming 6th graders so that they know, so that we can have them assembled before the beginning of the school year so that we can help with back to school night if we need more bodies navigating people. So yeah, lots of good stuff that they've come up with. They're a great group of kids, and we have 30 members, and we're like, oh, we can dwindle it down. We really couldn't. I mean, it's a good problem to have when you have that many kids that are qualified and just great and want to do things. So it was really hard. We kind of filtered through if you were on leadership and PBIS. We kind of wanted other people to have an opportunity to be on student council since they were already in leadership roles. Yeah, this has been awesome. They're an amazing group of kids. Very lucky.
And I might be telling you something that you already know, but when you go talk to the 5th graders, make sure that you take examples or pictures of things, because they need to see those tangible things. So you could take examples of what your suckers look like, or what your notes look like, or, the amount of I know that a few years back, last year, the year before, when Timmy was there was the picture in Dr. Reynolds' office with all the food that was raised. Give them something tangible to look at.
Yeah. Titan Hill comes in, the 5th graders come from Titan Hill to visit the middle school, and we usually give a pretty big presentation to all of them. So
Yep.
I'm hoping that these kids can just come talk at that point when they're in the setting and
Be awesome.
be able to provide some of that info to them then and get them excited, for sure.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
We're definitely excited to see what you guys do in the future. Keep it up.
And we can't wait to hear about the dance.
We'll have Mrs. Schwaller put together a video of all the fun things that happen at the dance. Sounds
Awesome.
like you're also supervising.
Can I get a photo of you girls before you leave? And we'll go out in the hallway.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you
very
for
much,
having us.
everyone. Thank you, parents, for bringing them.
Oh, no, you got to come back in for the rest of the meeting. They always leave.
They probably took a glance. They probably took a glance at the agenda and they're like, "I'm out."
I took a glance at the agenda and thought, I'm out.
Did we have any other additional commendations, good news?
I
just wanted to give a big kudos to everybody who runs Clash. That was quite the event. I mean, how many different groups did we have there?
So we had 9 competitive performances on Friday night for the middle school. We had 19 competitive performances on Saturday for high schools. And then, of course, our 3 own middle school on Friday night and Company and Corp on Saturday. We probably had at one point 16, 17, 1,800 people in the auditorium who were there for awards. And it was a phenomenal day. It was
officially
probably
only 1,300 because we did not have more than what was.
No, we didn't have more. It was a filtered in and out.
Yes.
So there were people who were watching overflow in the gym. Yes, but there were people everywhere. The screen that was put up this last year in the cafeteria, huge. That was amazing. People who were standing in line could still very easily see what groups were performing. We had a meeting Thursday night to determine what we need to do different for next year, what needs to change. We're losing 36 seniors out of Corp, Company, and the administration. So if you have a kid who's in show choir, boy, let's make sure we get them out. Auditions will be in May. This was our 31st Clash, and by far the most financially successful and probably the smoothest run. People choose to end their season with us because they enjoy our facility so much. So lots of compliments throughout the entire day from parents, staff, students alike. The day hadn't even started, and I heard this group of kids come, and I'm not sure, they were either from Millard South or Papio-La Vista South, and there wasn't a lot going on, and probably a group of 6 kids or so, and they said, I am so glad we're back here this year. This is just the most awesome competition, the greatest space, the people are nice. And I caught her and I said, hey, you want to write that down for me so that I can put that in the program for next year? And she laughed and she goes, no, really, this is our favorite competition to come to. So we have a standing room only line in order to come to Clash. And so it's, I get a little emotional. It was an amazing weekend with a lot of amazing volunteers and a lot of amazing kids who pulled off just a phenomenal show. I don't have final numbers, but I know that our gate was more than it has been in the past, and I think we looked at $40,000 plus just at our gate. That does not include whatever Booster Club sold. So
Or
very.
vendor kickbacks. You have a couple of vendors there too, right?
And we had 3 vendors who will also provide a percentage of their sales. Chloe was actually my daughter was one of the vendors this year. She more than doubled what she sold last year at Clash. And so she will be able to donate probably enough to help 2 different kids pay for their costume fees for next year if they need it. So
Awesome.
Pretty phenomenal weekend. Pretty phenomenal. And if you have never been to Clash, can I just say that it is March 6th and 7th next year? It's always the very first full weekend in March. Swing by and just see it. You don't have to spend the whole day. I mean, yes, I'd love for you to spend the whole day. We're always looking for bodies. But just come by and see it. It is truly like nothing else that happens in this district. So, it was awesome.
There's a lot of heart and passion that go into that thing.
Yes, there is.
Very impressive.
I won't tell you how many hours and how many dollars that I put in.
Yeah, no, it was amazing, amazing time.
Yes.
The next one we have is we had our Special Olympics state basketball this last weekend. We had 4 students earn medals. So that is phenomenal. Those 4 students, oh my goodness, it just moved on me. Sorry, one second. Those 4 students, we had Bentley Conrad get first place in speed dribble. Blessing Says got 3rd place in basketball skills. Darnell Dale got 4th place in basketball skills, and Veronica Willie got 5th place in basketball skills. And we had several other athletes that were there as well competing, and I heard they all had a great time, and it was good competition. So sometimes the ball doesn't go on the hoop, but that's okay. That happens with the best of us, including me once in a while. So we also had 2 students that are 2025 United States Presidential Scholar candidates, and that would be Jacob Koloff Sadler and Ella Bussey. So I'm pretty excited there. So those are kind of the main things. As we continue on, you'll see clear throughout the rest of the year, every single board meeting has a different student group that's going to come in and present, similar to what we've been doing. So we'll have people continue to join us. So that's all I got.
Were there any additional commendations, good news? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to comments and suggestions. This is the first part in our Board of Directors meeting where we open up the floor to any public comment that you'd like to share or direct towards the board. Do we have anybody here or online? No? Okay. Hearing none, we will move forward to our consent agenda. Can I please get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion to approve.
Vote, please.
There is an updated personnel
there is?
sheet that is up there.
Just to make it a little bit bigger if you could. There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, no, turn this way. Okay.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Reports, 7.01, financial update.
So this is new. We're going to do every meeting. I will have both, because they're here anyway, so we might as well have Mrs. Reyes and Dr. Hartman will give updates from their respective fields. Mrs. Reyes focuses on, she's all of our business side of it, so finance, HR, she'll come in and she'll have different reports. Every other meeting is our finance, she'll have a finance report, and then on off meetings, she'll have a variety of other things she'll share. And then Dr. Hartman will also cover one of her areas of curriculum instruction assessment to make sure that you guys feel like you have the information you need. So I'll let Mrs. Reyes go.
All right, so the report that I picked to talk about this week is the certified budget comparison that you guys get monthly. The reason that I picked this one in particular is that over the next 2 meetings, we will have our public hearings for the certified budget and then ultimately certifying our budget for FY26. So this report is always going to be based on the budget that we set the previous year in April. And this is our overarching budget. So When we set our certified budget, we set it in the different categories that are listed there: instruction, support services, non-instruction, and other, which includes facilities acquisition and construction, debt, AEA flow-through, and then any downward adjustments that would need to take place. So in each of those groups, you cannot exceed the budget for those in any individual one, but for a district-wide. So for example, with the instruction, majority of that expense is in the general fund, but we do have some of that as well in the management and the activity. So when we set our certified budget, we will set a budget for instruction in activity and management. But if we go over a little bit in those, as long as we're still under as a whole, then we are within our budget according to the state. So as of the end of February, we right now are at 50% of our budget in instruction, which is exactly where I want us to be for instruction at the end of February. And the reason for that is because majority of instruction is going to be our teacher salaries. And our teacher salaries are paid from August or September to August, so there's 2 months in there that is a little bit of a cushion, so you wouldn't want all of that to be. So as of the end of February, we have paid 6 payments, and we have 6 payments still to come out of majority of the contracts that are in there. So 50% is right where I would like that to be. The next 2 is our support services and non-instruction. So that's going to be where you see some of your admin expenditures, some of our expenditures for our non-instruction side, which is our nutrition fund, our daycare, some of the support services also includes transportation. That's where the big one comes in our management fund is also the insurance would be our support services. So right now we are at 54%. So right on target there for support services, and then the same with non-instruction, we're at 58%. The one that looks like we're running really low with the exception of our debt service, and that's because of when debt payments are going to be made, but our facility acquisition and construction. That one is set a little bit high, and that has to do partially with the fact of depending on when our construction payments take place. If they take place in June of this year, they would need to be on this year's budget. If they do not take place in this year and take place in July or August or whatnot for our summer work, then it would be rolled over into the next budget. So when we look at certifying our next month's budget, I will look and see where we're at with all of our construction planning and determining which payments, if any of them, will be made in June. And then whatever amount won't be, I can reuse those funds into our next year's budget and set that budget based on that as well. The other thing you're going to see when we set that number for next year, that is going to include all of the projects that we are planning for this summer and part of them that we would be planning for the next summer as well. So that number is going to be significantly larger than what it was this year, since we'll be having the $20 million bond that we'll be issuing here in May, and then the additional $10 million that we'll have in the following year as well. So total wise, we're running about 46%, so we are right on target of where I would like us to be for the year based on our published budget from last year. And then I will do the same for this in figuring out what we're going to spend next year, and that's what we'll be looking at the April 21st meeting. The next meeting, April 7th, we will have our budget public hearing for the maximum authority that was sent, and those notices did go out, so everyone that is here should have received those in their mail. And then if your spouse opened them and said, "What is this piece of paper that I'm looking at?" you can tell them to call me and I can explain what they're looking at. But we'll go on that in more detail. And just a reminder on that, that was set higher than what we were expecting it to be. Once we know what state supplemental aid will be, I will be able to set that to an accurate amount, but as of today, we still don't know what that will be. So hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers that within the next 3 weeks, they'll have it figured out so I can come to you guys with a better number. Are there any questions?
Okay.
Okay, then moving on to curriculum instruction update.
And assessment, so I can call it the CIA report that you guys are getting. I was going to include a couple different things, but I saw the agenda and I was like, I'm just going to stick with one thing here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about FastBridge, just because some of the things I'll talk to you guys about in the future, there's lots of tie-ins here. But this is the first year that we're using this program called FastBridge, and this is what we use for screening for K through 8th grade on both literacy and math. So we're looking for a really quick way to see where are our kids' skills at when it comes to math and literacy. So before we had iReady, it was really expensive. It also did very different things. You guys will have a copy of this presentation, so I won't go into all of this, but this was some of the teams. We sent this out to them just for some talking points, but just for people to understand that the difference between iReady and FastBridge, it's really apples to oranges. We are not measuring the same thing. With FastBridge, we're really getting in-depth, detailed information about skill levels, specifically when it comes to literacy and math. iReady was a little bit more focused on like your course standards and how well kids were meeting standards. So just different information that we're getting. This is the Iowa Reading Research Center, puts out a lot of great information that are connected with the University of Iowa. And so people can go to this fastbridge.irrc-learning.org website, and it walks you through everything you could possibly want to know about screeners, FastBridge, what it looks like to use those screeners, what it's intended for. I'll just show you some highlights here, but you can see one of the assessments that we use, we're looking for kids, their words correct per minute. We're looking to see, are they accurate? We're also able to see, are they fluent? And then depending on how things go, then we're looking at maybe some different diagnostic tools to figure out where are their gaps and where do we need to intervene. So here you get a little bit more information just about each of the different assessments that we have. What are they for? So you can see early reading, that's what we use at CREFT. And that's, again, for screening. We can use it to monitor progress for kids over time. We also do CBM reading, which is where kids are reading out loud to us, and so we're using time and looking at fluency. And then A reading as they start to get a little bit older, and that's kind of this broader reading assessment. We also use it for screening too for kids. So there's just a lot of information on this site. I won't go through all of it, but if people wanted to dig in a little bit more, I would highly recommend this site. Just lots of really good information on there. So all of that background to show you, here is where our FastBridge data is right now. So this is literacy. Red means it's between 0 and 59%. The goal would be 80%. We want 80% of our kids to meet benchmark. That's how we know what we're doing at the classroom level, tier 1, is effective. So in the fall, we had the first round of our screening data, and then you can see in the winter what scores look like. This one here, the fall to winter growth, is answering the question, are the students who were below benchmark before improving and now scoring above benchmark? So you can see, for example, in kindergarten, we had 31% of kids who were below benchmark who were then scoring above benchmark. It's kind of an interesting data point there. And then the fall to winter maintain, where we've got a lot of yellow. This answers the question, are the students who are not at risk remaining above benchmark? So we want to make sure kids aren't falling behind. If they were at benchmark, are they staying there? So you can see the data there. So that's literacy. We'll test again in spring. And then on the other side here is what math looks like. So again, you can see we measured in fall, then again in winter. You can see the differences. We've got some areas where some scores went down. You can see those kids who were able to then meet benchmark and those who stayed on benchmark. So that data is really important to us. I'll talk through a little bit about what we do with that data, but I think it's important as we continue to look at some of the different decisions that we're making, that we're, aware of where our kids are at with their data and constantly looking to improve. So here's some different things. Building level teams are always looking at that data. They're making analysis. They're determining some next steps in their own buildings. I-plans are created based on that data. So part of that too is part of legislation where each kid, if they're persistently at risk, needs to have a plan. We determine interventions based on that data. That could also mean course placement in certain areas. The data is reporting out to our district leadership team. And then the data is used for instructional decisions. So for example, our curriculum review process now, the very first stage of our curriculum review process asks us to look at data. So we're pulling in things like this, we're pulling in things like our ISAF scores, and we're using that to ask some questions. Are these materials working for us? That's the starting point, is looking at our data. We've also used it in the SAMI process. All of our buildings were identified on the state assessment as having a subgroup that was in need, and that was our special education population. So all of our buildings, minus CREF, because they're not part of that, ISASP, all went through the SAMI process, which is looking at your internal systems and determining some next steps. And so this data was also used for part of the SAMI processes. So what's next? So we will have our spring screening window in April. April 21st is when that window opens. We are really hopeful that we see some increased scores. We've been implementing UFly now at both Kreft and Titan Hill. And UFly is a program that is phonics-based. It's one of the gaps with our current Tier 1 curriculum materials. We've had teachers finding some success with that. We've done a lot of implementation studies and learning labs with it, so we're hopeful with that implementation that we'll see some growth. We'll continue to train our teachers with letters. We've invested very heavily in letters, and if you're not familiar with letters, it is really just the science of reading. It gets down to the nitty-gritty, like this is how little kids learn how to read. And so a big part after we've gone through letters training has then been how do we take our knowledge and then incorporate that into what we're doing. So this has been almost 2 years in the making, but the last year and a half our elementary teams got together and developed this district literacy plan. And part of the goal with the literacy plan too was just like as new people come on, we want to be able to say like this is how we approach literacy at Lewis Central. And again, we wanted to take some of that knowledge we've been learning through letters and apply it to how we teach literacy. The other thing that we did with this is after we created this, we then created a spreadsheet that is basically like a matrix where each building will go through and rate themselves, how are we doing on these things? And if there's gaps, then the building is going to work that into their building plans for next year. So just met with one of Titan Hill's lead teams. They scored themselves and we'll include that in their planning. And then in a couple weeks, we'll meet with Kreft's team as well. So just a way to kind of keep this as a living document. So elementary is living that right now. And then secondary is currently working a process where secondary is going to add their flavor into this district literacy plan. Because right now it's just focused on elementary, but we want a congruent document that's, pre-K through 12. How do we do literacy at Lewis Central? So that's really quick, a little bit about Screener. We'll talk math probably at the next time, but just wanted to give you a little bit more about what that looked like for literacy and where we're at with some of our screening data. Questions?
Can we compare the FAST data, like a literacy across districts similar to us, or is that just because I know that we were below 59%?
Yep.
I'm just curious, is that something that compared to other schools kind of in our district or at least around us,
Yeah.
if we're lower? Or
We
if
are.
we're
We're lower than the average Green Hills average. There is part of, it's a new assessment that they're taking. There's a little bit of that to get used to. But yeah, currently we are a little bit lower than those around us.
And the assessment is provided strictly by teachers. So a lot of it is just that process of.
At some places. So At CREF, we've taken like a assessment team, so like we really dove in on some of the training, and we've tried to be really consistent then about how we test kids, and then we just run kids through this assessment team. Titan Hill right now is doing a little bit different, so to Brent's point, it's classroom teachers who are doing the assessment, and there can be pluses and minuses to both of that, but then you've got a lot of different people testing, and you hope it's not too different, but sometimes when you get a lot of people doing it, there might be a little bit of difference.
Initially, once people get the hang of it, and I mean, we'll see it, we'll see it balance out. One of the things that's nice is the vast majority of schools across the state of Iowa do the FAST. That was one of the reasons for switching. There are very few schools across the state of Iowa that were doing iReady, very few. And so we really couldn't find peer data. So that's why we made the switch over to FAST, because we wanted to see more peer-to-peer data.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the testing is April 21st?
That's when the window opens, so
Okay.
we then have like 30 days to
Okay.
do the test. Yeah.
And how fast results come back?
Immediately, as soon as the kid takes it,
Gotcha.
the results are in.
Okay.
Mhm.
So for the fall, winter, spring, was that currently aligned with our trimesters? And then does that change if we move to semesters next year?
No, so the state sets the screening windows.
Okay.
And so you have to screen 3 times per year. Yeah.
Is there anything with the Fast Bridge program that we don't currently have that you'd like to see us have in the future?
No, not necessarily. I mean, there's options to do some screening with like behavioral kind of stuff, but the state's really kind of, put the kibosh on what we should or could be asking when it comes to that. You can also screen now up through the 12th grade level. I think that gets really challenging at the high school level when you're taking, different kinds of courses and you've got lots of different options. We've talked through that a little bit, but I don't think there's anything else that they have that we're like, oh, we'd really like to have that. It's working the tool is providing us the information we need right now.
Any additional questions for Dr. Hurd? Okay. Nice shot. I'd rather say nice shot. We'll move into facility project update, project advocates.
So I actually sent you guys a document and an email. It's got our new, and I'm going to have you, Dr. Hartman, I'm going to pull up that email that I just sent. It has a spreadsheet. Yep, so the second one down. Up, scroll down. The spreadsheet document. Okay, so if you can zoom in. So this, you guys all have access to this. I emailed this to you as well. So this just talks about kind of where we are with projects. High school parking lot, obviously that's out to be bid on right now. You guys will have an opportunity to review those bids on 4/7. Kind of gives you probable costs, and then we'll actually have some contract amounts in there as well. If you go to the bottom, look at the tabs, like for instance, click over on the middle school roof tab. You guys will see, you can actually see the individual bids, what they came at it, what the company was that bid. Any additional comments that we have will be on those as well. So that'll be a working document that project advocates will send to me weekly, and I'll just forward off to you guys so you guys can review and kind of keep up to date on it. So any other additional comments, Brett? You said at one point we're going to have how many different projects going on this summer? And this is just bond-related projects.
I kind of created a tab, so 2025 projects to the left there. So I'm just, for my own peace of mind, to keep track of everything, this is what's on the slate for this summer and roll into the fall if you want. But we're at 13 projects, probably 12 will be active and hot through the summer, and a couple others kind of in the getting started phase. So that's what we're looking to tackle through the summer here. Gonna be really busy, a lot going on. Next week, or next board meeting, 7 of those should be out of board approval between bids and some other just contract approvals. So I'm sure you've noticed a little bit more starting to show up on board meetings, and it's just gonna keep coming. And we're also always our goal to get through this summer, get bids out, and then as soon as we let the dust settle before the work actually starts, we have everything ahead of next year. So things are going well. We can see good numbers so far, and I hope you guys are happy with what you're seeing.
And this is, again, this is just the bond projects. So Project Advocate, this is basically what Project Advocates is managing for us. Project Advocate's gonna manage all the big projects, but we're gonna have other projects like painting and flooring and furniture and, you know, those types of things that on an annual basis just come in and out. One of the things we don't have in here that we should put on there for would be like the safety improvements. So the cameras, the door, like that'll be something put on here. Project Advocates won't necessarily manage that piece, kind of like playgrounds. I'll manage playgrounds. Chris Evangelisti will manage all the IT things. So, but those are just, I mean, we could have at any point, we could have 20 different contractors for 20 different projects going on this summer. So it's gonna be a very intense summer, so.
And you talked about having like a state of the district with teachers and staff,
Yep.
so that way they know who's coming in when. and-
Yeah, we'll have estimated timelines and those types of things, so, and again, we'll make sure we have that bond, page, we'll make sure we get that updated, so that way people can catch our progress as we continue to move forward. See estimated timelines, project costs, those types of things. We wanna be as transparent as possible, to the general public, so. Yeah, it's gonna be a doozy of a summer. Any other questions for Brett or I regarding facilities?
I guess the only thing that I have, I think I've touched base is when they do, since you have linked or put the drainage clean out with the tennis court, those almost have to be done prior to them tearing out the high school parking lot. Because if you get 100 loads of dirt going across the middle school parking lot, you're gonna end up destroying that before we're ready to replace it. So they have to go out the high school parking lot.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Yeah, we just had a garbage truck fall through the middle school road, so, parking lot, so we're just gonna patch that up for now and gonna move forward, so. Yeah, hopefully we can get that bid out and get that going, so.
Any additional comments, questions?
I'm looking forward to it getting fixed, because it's a disaster.
Oh, I know.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll move forward with the superintendent update.
So I got a couple things on here. First of all, I got a couple phone calls this weekend regarding the tax forms that Mrs. Reyes had mentioned during her report. Just again, reiterate with the public, like, this is what we talked about when we originally approved the maximum levy a couple of board meetings ago, was specifically that levy is it's a false levy. It's a fake levy, because we're never going to end up at that. When the state requires us to report that out, they're supposed to have our state supplemental aid set at that time. So we're supposed to be able to communicate consistent, accurate numbers. But when the state doesn't have their supplemental aid increases approved, then we have to create a budget that's essentially fake, because even though they move their timelines, they're legally obligated, it's supposed to be to have it set at a certain date, so we're supposed to report it at a certain date. They move their timeline, our timelines remain the same. So we have to send out a budget basically saying that the state's gonna give us no increase and that 100% of the bill is gonna fall on the taxpayers. We know that's not true. The state knows it's not true. However, that's the way we have to publish it. And so, again, that's just an estimate. We won't actually set the budget until after the state has set their SSA rate. And so it's going to be significantly lower. Even if you look at the document will show that we went from a $10.30 levy to a $11.60 levy. That there's about 30 cents of wiggle room in there. We won't go above $11.30. That'll be the levy that we set, essentially when it comes back. What you're not seeing in there is it says like state levy, and then it says realized levy, which is lower, and that's the portion of money that the state lowers based on their supplemental aid increases. And right now, that's zero. So it's not lowering that at all. So that's why you're seeing a 30% increase. It's not 30%. The community did vote through a $1 increase. So you will see a $1 increase from $10.30 to $11.30. And that's if the state doesn't follow through with what they're talking about right now, which is lowering the amount of money that the state contributes for education, or this increasing the amount of money that the state contributes for education and lowering the tax burden for education. Right now they're looking at over $400 million that they would like to come out of the state's coffers, and that would actually continue to lower the property tax for our local constituents. So again, just begging people to have a little bit of patience. We have to report on a timeline, regardless of whether it's fair, regardless of whether or not it's accurate, we still have to report. And that levy actually won't be set until the very end of April. So lots of time. If you have questions, if you get that form, it's just an estimate. Just know it's not going to be correct. If anything, if the state says they're going to give us just a modest increase, you will see the levy go from $10.30 to $11.30. And that's strictly because we approved a $1 increase to our for the bond. And so that'll be less than a 10% increase. So the 30% or 27 and 28% on forums this weekend. That is not true. It's what you're getting right now. It's all estimates. So you can breathe deep. It's okay. Like that, we'll have accurate numbers out by the end of April. So the only way it would be above $11.30 is if the state decides at the last minute that they're not going to fund as big of an increase as they have in the past years, which is roughly a 2 to 2.5% increase. So if they come in with less than that, then they will set their increase. Our increase is still going to be that $1, but the majority of our levy we have no control over. So the state's going to has 100% control. But everything they're saying so far is it's going to actually be less. So we'll hope that that's the case. There, just wanted to state that, so that way if we have more phone calls, I can be like, check out the board meeting. There's more information there. Excuse me, legislative updates. Again, we're just waiting for our SSA to kick in. Staffing, we're close to full. We have an elementary tag that just became open, and we have a high school science. We do have an elementary teacher position open at Titan Hill, but we're interviewing this week, so hopefully that'll be filled. So if you know of a talented and gifted teacher or a high school science teacher, have them reach out and apply. LCEF, our Education Foundation, is hiring a director. You guys did approve for us to then contract with the director, our LCLC services, so hopefully we'll start getting some applicants in and reviewed, and then we can help LCEF move forward with that. You will see that underneath our job openings because they are brand new to having employees and they just don't have a system set up right now to collect applications for that. So we're essentially collecting the applications, but the foundation will be hiring. Snow day. So we are looking at potentially more snow here on Wednesday, which is awesome. It's almost 80 degrees today, and then snow on Wednesday, and then back to 80 degrees this weekend. So that's great. However, what's not great is we are officially completely out of additional hours. So I've been very careful. I drafted an email on Friday to send out to people that says, congratulations, we've made it through with no time left to spare. We're going to have our regular dismissal date. And then all of a sudden they decided we're going to get a blizzard. It's like 98% chance of a blizzard on Wednesday. Now there's lots of time. We live in Iowa. It's the Midwest. That storm in the next 48 hours could shift a little bit to the north and we will get nothing. But so I'm not going to cancel school until we get a little bit closer to that time. We are, however, planning, because if we end up canceling or we do a late start or anything like that, we will have to make up that time. And so, and that's not our decision, that's a state decision. We have to keep so many hours with the state, which means that we would, right now the plan, and I will email this out tomorrow just to give people a heads up, if we have to cancel on Wednesday, my recommendation to the board, because the board will have to approve the calendar at the next meeting, will be to add Friday, May 30th as a student day, and then have staff come back to report, clean out their rooms, do their checkout on Monday, June 2nd. So tried really hard to get out before June this year. Not sure Mother Nature is going to let us do that. So, well, that's out of our control though. So we talked about a lot of different options. This is the only one that really makes sense. It's not, we don't do online learning days because honestly, there's not enough time to be able to kick that in. We've never done it before, even between now and Wednesday. Whatever we put out would be non-educational, and I'm not okay with that. So the community, we just talked about taxes. Community pays a lot of taxes to us to provide a quality education experience. And so we're going to do everything we can to have a quality education experience, even if we have to go an additional day. So, but I will send that out. Calendar update, we're going to actually have to update the calendar anyway, because if you guys approve or ratify the collective bargaining agreement with the Education Foundation today, that does change some of their reporting dates. And so I'll bring a calendar for you guys for next year, 25-26, to approve anyway. Just some small changes there. Spring sports are getting dialed up. Winter sports are officially done. Winter activities are officially done. Booster Club auction night is March 29th, coming up here. If you guys want to support a great cause, sign up for the Booster Club auction. It's a great night, good food. I get to entertain people by giving a rock star speech. So come out and join us for that. Kindergarten registration is May 1st and 2nd. So people have been asking about that a lot. We'll do another push. We just did one on social media. But yeah, that's been a big question, is when's kindergarten registration. So that's about it for my updates. I was the only one of the three, by the way, that kept it to 5 minutes.
You were short. Did you really count the time?
It was like 7. But.
I was going to say, anybody have any questions?
Oh.
All right.
Try to keep that under 2 hours.
Yeah.
Were there any questions on the superintendent update? Okay. Then we will move forward to discussion items. 8.01, the high school roof spec approval.
So you just need to approve that we're going to be doing the other sections of the roof, and that the estimated cost is $800,000. I did send you the links. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Any questions, comments regarding that?
Is that a different contractor than what was used the last time?
So, yeah, essentially, there was a misunderstanding. The previous architect we had used on the first portion of the roof, we were under the understanding, we'd been told that we could use that drawing for the whole roof. We actually paid for a portion of the roof. And so we were having Rick Emsweiler do the specs on the second half of the roof, or on the middle school roof, reviewing those for us anyway. So we asked both companies to give us a bid, and Rick came in significantly under what the other company did. The one wanted $38,000 for just drafting or coming up with plans for the second half of the high school roof. Rick wanted $3,000, so we ended up going with Rick. He had the plans back to us in about 4 days, I think, 3 days, really fast. So they will move forward there. So yeah, that's why we kind of had to redo but it's a very simple roof. It's just a rubber membrane. Like, it's not like, all the curbing and everything else is pretty simple.
Any other questions? Okay, then we'll move to 8.02, the high school parking lot spec approval.
So again, this one we talked about before. Design was done by Lamper Nearson. Includes parking lot lights, adjoining pavement. Budget for the parking lot, tennis court and drive lanes, 4.2 million. This is estimated at 2,043,400. So we'll see what the bids come in at, but.
Any questions, comments on that? Okay, moving forward to the high school tennis courts, hearing approval.
Yep, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. It's just Lamper Nearson designed this. This includes the tennis courts and drainage clearing. There'll be 6 courts. We have 4 currently, so 3 or 4 currently. 4, right? So this would be expanding by 2, which is great. We have a growing program. So estimated cost for this is $1,155,850. So it'd be easier if Lamp just did round numbers, but surprised they didn't get into the cents.
They usually never round your way, though. That's the problem.
Oh, yeah, touche.
Any additional comments, questions? Okay, Titan Hill parking lot replacement and adding the queuing lane.
Yep, so estimate for this project is $697,450. Includes replacement of the bad section of the parking lot where the teachers park right now. The adding an additional lane and then the pavement that's adjoining or around the front of the Titan Hill.
Any questions, comments on that? Okay, middle school roof, hearing approval.
Yep, so Rick Wemsler, we had him go ahead and review that. We just did, he's estimating that at $200,000. As you'll see, we actually got a bid for significantly less than that, so that's a positive, but just need to officially approve the specs and the estimate before you can approve the middle school roof bid.
Okay, so we won't be doing the bid approval?
Oh, yep, you'll still do the bid approval.
Okay.
That's the next line item, so you can do them on the same night.
Okay. Were there any questions, comments on the hearing approval for the middle school roof? Okay, moving forward to middle school roof bid approval.
Yep, so we have, pull it up here, I just sent this to you. So we have middle school roof, we had 8 bids come in, and we, out of the 8 bids, JR Roofing came in the lease at $143,744. So part of what we do is when we get the bids, we make sure they're all equal, they're all bidding the same thing, that they all have bid bonds, that they comply with all legal requirements. And then after they make a bid, then it's Project Advocate's responsibility to go out and ensure that they are able to do the work in the manner, in the time frame in which they had discussed it, and just see if there's any reason why we should not select the lowest responsible bidder. And so they did their due diligence and said that there's nothing they can find that would prohibit JR Roofing from being able to perform the contract.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, moving forward, 8.07 high school fire alarm bid approval.
So we had it out there the same time frame as the roofs. We got 1 bid back from Total Fire and Security Inc. Now we did bid a very specific fire system because it's the same one that the other buildings have. So we wanted to be consistent in what we have, make sure we have the same parts and everything else. There were 3 companies that entertained bidding. Only 1 came through, the other 2 did not, and if I'm not mistaken, it was mostly because they didn't, the electrical component of it.
The other 2 were afraid of the time frame and constraints to get it done during the summer. Smaller companies didn't have the manpower to do it, so they chose not to submit a bid for it. We checked out Total Fire very well. He provided a project plan, I call it, of how he intends to perform the work, how he intends to keep the building up and monitored while he's taking out the fire alarm system with kind of a temporary satellite system. So he had a very good plan, proposal, and way to get the work performed, and he's very comfortable with that. So we recommend it.
Yeah, he said when he was in the meeting that they would have anywhere between 6 to 8 people there pretty much at all times, so that's pretty pretty good. One of the reasons, we had that budgeted at 250,000, or estimated 250,000. It came in at 260,770. So Ford always, when we go through these things, you guys always have the right to reject all bids. You know, you can say, sometimes if you only get like a single bid, you can say, we're gonna reject the bid. The risk you take is that when you go out and bid it again, it comes back in higher. This is relatively close to where we had estimated. My guess is it's a little bit elevated, and he said this in the meeting, that it's a little bit elevated because he put in some tariff escalation, like he just put it in there. And then if that ends up not being the case, he would provide us, you know, kind of a deduct back if he doesn't have to pay that. The other thing is they had to, you know, when we get an estimate on the installation, the estimate's installation of the stuff, you know, like putting the fire alarm in, they also have to come up with a consideration for making sure that our fire alarm system does not go down. Like, we still have monitoring and reporting, and, you know, because when you're switching out one system for another, you can't just, it's not like the high school can just go without fire alarms for a year, you know, or for a summer, like, yeah. So they, coming up with a little additional plan probably is also what makes up the difference a little bit, so. So it's, in my opinion, it's well within kind of that margin of error, you know. If we had budgeted 250 and it came in at $500,000, I would say, whoa, like, let's rethink this a little bit. So, but that's not the case.
With the tariffs that he built in, what did he say? I thought, at the bid letting, I thought he said it was $17,000.
I think it was less than that.
I thought maybe
Wasn't it?
7.
It was like 8% on about $90,000 material. And if they don't kick in, he will give us that.
Yeah, I think he
Because
said. I think he said 7.
Actually put it under the budgeted amount, just slightly.
Get it? Okay. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with the tariffs, but either way, we're right around that budgeted amount, so.
And the good thing is, as you've seen, a lot of the other projects are coming in a little under, so, you know, as long as you got one that doesn't come under, but you're always ahead. At the end of the day, it's worth
Yeah.
it.
Were there any other questions on the fire alarm?
Excuse me.
Okay. Moving forward to 8.08, van purchase.
So again, we are looking for one more 12-passenger van to purchase for this year. They're kind of unicorns. We just happened to stumble across 2 unicorns in the same field in a 2-week time frame. So just bought the last 12-passenger van last week. This one, they have a 12-passenger, again, Edwards does. It's a 2022, 3,500, 39,000 miles. Their asking price is $41,990. They're going to give us a consideration of $600 on a trade. We think that's probably fair because we couldn't even get the van started. So,
Are you supposed to say that here?
well,
They've already said they'll give it to us.
yeah. So, well, they know. I mean, that's why they gave us $600. I think they basically gave us trash value for it. So, but at least they're going to take it away. They get a little bit of a dealer dock fee on there, and then a final purchase price of $41,570. That's really in the realm of what we've spent. I mean, we've gone as far as Topeka, Kansas to pick up vans that we spent more money on. So with essentially the same miles, it's really hard to find a used 12-passenger van with less than 30,000, 40,000 miles. So again, we run them until they got about 170,000 miles on them. So until they don't work anymore, and then we park them, and then they sit around for about 4 years, and then we trade them in for $600. So
One good thing that we're doing now is getting something out of them when we trade them in.
yeah.
I mean, our last one we traded in, I think we get like $2,500 out of that.
Yeah.
That there was pretty good. That's better than selling them outright or running them over scale. So, and then we're not paying insurance on them or anything, they're gone.
Yep. So, yeah, so recommendation would be to purchase that van for $41,570. You'll have some happy van drivers, and, well, one at a time, happy van driver, so. Anyway.
Any other questions regarding the van purchase?
I do like that we can buy it here rather than drive to Topeka, Kansas. So we're still dealing with title issues from that.
8.09, wireless access points, bid approval.
So we went through, we had quite a few bids for this one. Basically what this is it's, so E-rate, which is money that we get from the federal government to purchase connectivity devices. They give us X amount of dollars per year based on what our free and reduced lunch population is. We have about 50% free and reduced lunch population, so they give us not 50%. We have about 30% free and reduced lunch population, so we actually get reimbursed 50% of the funding. Our free and reduced lunch population has actually declined a little bit. We used to be at 60% funding for this E-rate. Now we're down to 50%, which just means we split the cost with the government. They give us half of what we need. So, and there's a certain amount of money that we get each time. So Chris manages all that. His recommendation is to do, he does things like this year. It's specifically 67 out of 196 of our wireless access points because that's how much money we can get from E-rate. So he just says phase one, depending on how much money they give us. We're in the last year of a 5-year phase, so depending on how much they give us in the next 5 years, we'll finish out the transition. But bid it out to all these companies. A winning bid came in from Riverside Technologies, Inc. out of Sioux City for $90,031.92. So.
Any other questions, comments on the wireless access points? Okay, 8.10, local government risk pool, natural gas agreement.
This just, basically, it's like, you think of it as like the budget bill plan that you're paying for your energy bills. You know, it's instead of a consistent amount every month, it's a consistent amount every year. You pay one cost, and regardless of how much gas you use, a little or a lot, it's usually the same, and then they adjust it the next year based on, you know, if you overpaid one year, the next year you're gonna pay less, you know, so it's just, we used a lot last year, and so, or this year, it's last year, so now their price next year is going up, $214,414. Nice thing is this is an insurance plan, so we can use our, management fund for this instead of our general fund, which then we can use general fund specifically on, more instructional, so.
Any questions, comments on this?
Especially with all the tariffs, you know, it'd be interesting to see what Canada does with energy, if that impacts, you know, gas prices, you know, natural gas prices at all. I mean, this also sets us in. I mean, it could be a short-lived tariff, but if it goes on, I mean, this gives us some protection, so.
Okay, moving on to 8.11, bus purchase.
This is why I have Chuck here. You can kind of talk about, so we need to purchase 2 more buses. We still have not received the buses we bought last year, which tells you that, you know, you got to keep purchasing them because you're not going to get them for 12 to 18 months. So we did get multiple bids from both Bluebird and Thomas. Bluebird was cheaper in both of these, the stub nose and the conventional. We currently drive all stub noses except for one. These are rear engine stub nose buses. So their bid is $171,564. The conventional Bluebird, which is like the regular front on it, it's not a flat front, $140,894. Difference between the two, they're the same length, but because you have the engine in the front versus the back on our conventional bus, the seat space is a little bit restricted. You can get a max of 77 passenger in the seats there. And the in the stub nose, you can get we do a 78 passenger configuration out of an 84 passenger bus, and so we actually, but there's quite a bit more leg room. We take these buses with our high school kids to show choir and football and everything else. And I can tell you that it gets a little tight if you get 84 passenger in there, which would be similar to what the 77 would be. The other thing is our drivers are used to driving stub nose. Their recommendations, they prefer to drive stub nose. I've driven both. I actually prefer the conventional. It took me a little bit to figure out the stub nose, but it's just, what do you grow up on, right? Like, what are your, so I guess Chuck's here to kind of talk a little bit, because there is a significant price difference, and we're talking about purchasing 2. So, you know, roughly a $60,000 price difference for 2 buses. Again, you know, Chuck can speak to this. My biggest thing would be if our drivers are used to driving stub nose, they want to drive stub nose. We can't find any drivers. I don't want to give any driver an excuse not to come drive for us, so.
We have, at the age of our drivers, this is what they've driven. The stub nose is what they've driven for years. The majority of them, 10 plus years. We have, one of the key things with the snub nose versus conventional is maneuverability when you get into tight spaces. You look at our trailer parks where you're making corners with cars parked on both sides of the road. It's much easier when you're sitting right up front. This is my opinion, and this, if you talk to our drivers are going to tell you the same thing. You're sitting right up. You can see everything. You're not dealing with that extension on the front, which your stubs are going to turn. The turning radius is going to be a whole lot sharper than your conventionals. It's going to take more room to turn. That's when you have older drivers who are used to driving the stub nose. My recommendation would be that we stay with what we have. The front engine buses are the conventionals are not like the front engine stub noses, so we only have one, so I'm not sure mechanic wise how much there's going to be savings getting in them and working on them, because you don't have to dismantle the whole front of the bus to get at the engine. With conventional, the motor is out in front, depending on what you have to work on to how hard it's going to be to get in. Or you open up the hood in the back of the bus, and it's right there.
Guess any questions for Chuck? And I believe your recommendation, Chuck, would be to buy 2 of the stub noses, is that correct?
Yep, just stay with what we got.
Okay.
That there helps too on the mechanic side of it. We can get the parts that we need, that we know most generally we're gonna need, we can have them on hand. And we don't have to worry about ordering them.
And these do come with seatbelts, because everything we order now has come with seatbelts. They do not come with air conditioning or the under storage, so.
Right. The big thing of it is with the seating and the no legroom has to do with the seats set up with seatbelts in them now. And all of them will become, when you get them, they're gonna have seatbelts in them. So that's why we chose the buses that are coming in will be 77 passengers on an 84 passenger chassis. So that will give more legroom. If anybody would like to see how cramped the legroom is, sometime if you stop down, we'll take you out and show you, our bus numbers are 21 and 27. And a lot of your trips for your football and show choir that are going on a long trip, they would almost rather have a non-air conditioning bus than one of them 2 buses, just because there's just no legroom.
Are we still looking at like an 18-month
Yeah.
time frame?
About 12 to 18 months.
12 to 18
12 to
months.
18 months, okay.
Yeah, and that's one thing, tariffs could be coming in with these too. If we order before April 1st, we lock them in, that's the price that's up there. Otherwise, there could be I think up to a 3% increase tacked on to that.
We haven't had any, or heard of any delay for the previous ones we ordered last year, right?
No, we heard early on that we were going to get them.
The rumor was we're gonna get them like in
5
December.
months, probably 4 or 5 months
Yeah,
ago.
because we bought them in May, so.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, everything just kind of got, but they're due to come in any time.
Not a moment too late.
No,
And we do have kind of a bus graveyard we're working at too, to try to figure out how we can, one of the things we don't want to do is turn into a junk lot, so.
Well, and some of the older buses that we have set back there, we have robbed parts off of them because, believe it or not, some of the old ones that are sitting back in the graveyard, I can still match a few of them that are running. So if we break a window, we can steal a window out of them, we steal a light off of them. But they're pretty much stripped out, so we need to get a wrecker in and run them across the scale and get rid of them.
Okay. Any other questions for Chuck? Or Brent? Thank you, Chuck.
Yep.
8.12, ratification of collective bargaining agreement with LCAEI.
Yep, so you guys will have, the actual collective bargaining agreement is a new email that I sent you. Just kind of go over the big things is, this does set final pay for next year. Moving forward, we'll no longer have a traditional salary schedule as we have right now, which is, lanes and steps. We're just gonna have a base for each one of the lanes, which is an educational lane, and then at each lane, it'll increase $2,000. This has been a long process. We've looked at a lot of different types of salary schedules. Tim and Tim and Aaron have been a part of that, so I think everybody feels real good. They had a real high turnout of voters, so as far as who, I think it was close to 75 or 80% of them voted yes on it, so so it has been ratified by the AEA. So limiting the salary schedule, going with base salary and lanes for education only. The biggest question is when you don't have a salary schedule, how do you place somebody new? Like if Miss Director Peterson comes in and she's a new teacher and she's got 10 years experience in a master's, if there's no salary schedule, how do we set her rate of pay? Well, what you do is we've made the recommendation and they accepted that we're gonna have a committee, which will include Mrs. Reyes, myself, the Education Association president, and then their chief negotiator. We'll get together. Mrs. Reyes will bring the comparable salaries to the table. So if Alex got 11 years in a master's and Doreen's got 9 years in a master's, and Eric's coming at 10 years in a master's, that the group will take a look at those salaries and say, okay, let's split the difference. This is what we're going to offer. So it's nice because before I just have the salary schedule and I go off the salary schedule and make an offer. Without the salary schedule, I really didn't want to be the one to say I'm going to set all the pay, because sometimes if I set it too high or too low, then people, there's a lot of hurt feelings. Well, if a committee does it, it is what it is, right? So so the committee is going to be the ones to kind of set that. We're going to move from a 35-minute duty-free lunch to a 30-minute duty-free lunch, and then move from a 190-day contract to a 192-day contract to a 190-day contract. If you take the 5 minutes a day over a period of 190 days, it actually ends up being just slightly more than 2 days. And so that's kind of where we're going to have them work 5 more minutes a day, and then take 2 days off their calendar, or off their contract. So there's a little bit of language that they cleared up in there, having to do with like defining who like children are. Before is like in their children. Well, what is a child? So if so we defined it as foster children, children, your own children, stepchildren. That's kind of what we put in there. So if Erin's my sister and we live together and her kids are sick, like that's not my kid. I can't take off a day to watch, my sister's kid. Like, so just kind of clarifying some of that kind of stuff. Somehow I messed up here. I clicked the wrong button. No, I don't want to retry. There we go. Oh. Okay, next one is on the supplemental salary schedule, which is how we pay our sponsors and our coaches. We're going to eliminate, right now it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like all the different lanes, and every year you're here, you move over a step. Well, we're eliminating step well, I call them lanes because it's vertical, but it's actually steps. We're eliminating steps 4 and 5 and just starting everybody on step 6. And the reason is there's just too many of them and our starting is too low. So by just eliminating the first 2, moving here, I think eventually we'll find that we will go kind of away from like steps altogether and just have a common, like if you're gonna coach, this is what you're gonna get paid regardless whether you're here for a year or, 5 years, and then it'll adjust based upon what we do at for what we call the base of the supplemental base. As we increase that, that's when people get paid more. So we're going to increase pay for assistant band and choir sponsors and coaches. That's almost like a clerical. Right now we pay sponsors and coaches based on, I'll just use football coaches for instance. We pay them based on what football coaches make, which is we consider in our long season. And then we pay the assistants based on what like cross country makes, and that's considered a shorter season, right? So we just want to increase their pay to be the same as what we pay assistant football, which is, so if you're gonna pay the head like a long season, you should pay the assistants like a long season too, because it's not like they get a check out early, they're there the whole time. So, and then finally, we settled at a 2.6% raise for the 2025-26 and 26-27 school years. So it's $1,650. It's a flat raise for 2 years in a row. It's kind of nice because when we know what it is, it's set. There will be no negotiations next year. It's just our contract right now sets to expire at the end of the 2027 year. So we'll review the entire thing at that point, but at least for the next 2 years, it'll be settled. We would go back in negotiations if SSA is less than 2% or if it's more than 2.5%. So we're kind of leaving, if it's within that 2 to 2.5 area, we're just going to kind of leave it alone. I've done 2-year contracts in the past. They're pretty nice. So everything just kind of stays status quo. So that would be, recommendation obviously be to ratify that, so then we can give contracts out, and tomorrow really, so people have them. Any other questions from you two? I mean, these two and Director McDaniel have been, part of these conversations now for, feels like 2 years. I mean,
Yeah.
it really has been, so.
So, like, the vocal music director, and this is obviously the one that I'm most familiar with, they have a 9-month season. That was taken in, I mean, I realize that football goes from, probably March to, might even be year round, but so those are gonna be more comparable
Correct.
now that, okay.
Yep, so it'll be the same.
I think the only comment I would have is to thank the Education Association for being so willing to work with us.
Yeah.
And coming to a resolution like this, so.
It's been just a very easy process. I mean, not an easy process, but like nobody's gotten worked up. It's been very much a collaborative process, and I think on both sides there's give and take. It's not the old negotiation style where it's like sitting in a dark room with one candle in the middle of the table, like staring at each other. Like that's very intimidating. That's not been how this is. There's been times where they've wanted something in a recommendation, but through conversation, it's like, I don't know we can possibly give you that without sacrificing these other things. And on the flip side, the board's job is to be fiscally responsible, and I think that, it's a little bit of a give and take, being able to say, we're gonna set 2 years in advance, taking out a little bit of risk of next year, because who knows what funding's gonna come in, but that way teachers feel like they, they're set for 2 years, So that's, I think it's been a good process, so, and I think the association would say the exact same thing, so.
Any additional comments, questions? Okay, hearing none. We'll move to 8.13, open enrollment requests. So a closed session is recommended to discuss the late filed open enrollment application.
Be good, Brett.
For Iowa Code 21.51A, closed session is appropriate to review or discuss records which are required or authorized by state or federal law to be kept confidential, or to be kept confidential as a condition for that governmental body's possession or continued receipt of federal funds. Can I get a motion to move to closed session, please?
Motion to move to closed session.
Second.
Vote, please.
Did you run out of paper, Andrea?
Huh?
Said you ran out of paper?
Yes. Mrs. Shuffle,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Sturm,
Yes.
Miss Atkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. Good. Everybody got their mics on? Okay. We will go to comments and suggestions. So this is the second time during our Board of Directors meeting where we open the floor to any public comments directed towards the board. Do we have anybody on?
No comments.
No comments? Okay. Then we will move forward to action items. 10.01, high school roof, hearing approval.
Mr. President, motion to approve the high school roof specs and RFP as presented.
Second?
Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Miss Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 10.02, high school parking lot, hearing approval.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Stern.
I'd like to motion to approve the high school parking lot specs as presented.
Second?
Vote, please.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Miss Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 10.03, high school tennis courts, hearing approval.
Mr. President, I'd like to motion to approve the high school tennis court specs as presented.
Second.
Vote, please.
Miss Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. 10.04, Titan Hill parking lot replacement and addition of queuing lane. Hearing approval.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Atkins.
I would like to make a motion to approve the Titan Hill parking lot replacement and additional queuing lane specs as presented.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Sturm,
Yes.
Ms. Atkins,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. 10.05, middle school roof. Hearing approval.
Mr. President, I'd like to make the motion to approve the middle school roof specs and RFP as presented.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Shuffle,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Sturm,
Yes.
Ms. Atkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. 10.06, middle school roof bid approval.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to award the middle school roof contract to JR Roofing for $143,744.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Sturm,
Yes.
Ms. Atkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. 10.07, high school fire alarm bid approval.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make the motion to award the high school fire alarm contract to Total Fire and Security, Inc. for the bid of $260,770.31.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sturm,
Yes.
Ms. Atkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. 10.08, van purchase.
Mr. President, I'd like to approve the van purchase from Edwards for $41,900.
Is that the right amount?
No.
It's is it 570? 41,570?
41,570.
Oh, 41,570, sorry.
No, you're good.
Second.
Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Sturm,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. 10.09, wireless access points bid approval.
Mr.
Mr.
President.
President,
Go ahead.
okay, I would like to make a motion to recommend the recommendation to approve the wireless access point bid from Riverside Technology, Inc. for $90,031.92.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Ms. Atkins,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. 10.10, local government risk pool natural gas agreement.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make the recommendation to approve local government risk pool participation agreement with the Local Government Risk Pool Commission for the amount of $214,414.10.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Shuffle,
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Sturm,
Yes.
Ms. Atkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. 10.11, bus purchase.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make the recommendation to approve the purchase of 2 stub-nose Bluebird buses from School Bus Sales in the amount of $343,128.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen,
Yes.
Mr. Sturm,
Yes.
Ms. Atkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle,
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes. 10.12, ratification of collective bargaining agreement with Lewis Central Education Association.
Mr. President, I'd like to make the recommendation to ratify the changes of the collective bargaining agreement with LCEA as presented.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
And Mr. Wright?
Yes. 10.13, open enrollment requests from closed session.
Mr. President, I'd like to make the motion to deny the open enrollment request for student A as presented in closed session per the inability to serve their individual education plan.
Second.
Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
And Mr. Wright?
Yes. And then for open enrollment requests for student B and C.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to deny the open enrollment request for student B as presented in closed session per the inability to serve their individual education plan.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. And then open enrollment request for student C.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to deny the open enrollment request for student C as presented in closed session per the inability to serve their individual education plan.
Second.
Vote, please.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Sturm?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes. Items of interest, future board meetings. For the fiscal year 2026 budget, we will have a public hearing on April 7th, 2025 at 6 p.m., which will be followed by our regularly scheduled board meeting, same day at 6:30 p.m.
If you guys would double check your doodles, I sent to your email, get those filled out so we can get a work session on the books. And then there's also, I told Mr. Kern I'd mention this, we have so his leadership, or Southwest Iowa Leadership Academy does a golf tournament every year, April 26th. So if you're a golfer or you want to support, they also take whole sponsors and everything else. 9 a.m., April 26th, Whispering Woods Golf Course. So.
Is it a group? Or
Yep,
is it
it's
foursome or-
a four-man scramble, or four-person scramble, sorry, my apologies. So,
And they have literally been working around the clock on that golf course, and it does not look anything like it did. So it's
Really?
a
I'm excited.
That's good to
very,
hear.
yep.
lots of
Pretty-
improvements.
It's pretty cheap comparatively. I mean, it's, $360 a team. That's less than what you'll find usually anywhere else. Includes 18 holes of golf, the cart, prizes, and then post-event meal. So
And when is that, the 24th?
it's 26th.
26th.
Saturday. Yeah. So.
Having no other items, can I get a motion to close this board meeting? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Did you need a motion?
Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Almost perfect. I know. All in favor, say aye.